Hello, my name's Kevin from Chauvin Arnoux. In this video, we're going to look at setting up the PEL51 power and energy logger. So to set up the PEL, we need mains power to it, 230 volts mains. In this case, I've connected it via the figure of 8 lead to a socket outlet. I've also connected the MA194 CT into the PEL so that it knows what CT it's got connected, and I can configure that during the configuration process. So now we've got power to the PEL, it's turned on, I can see the displays on, I can see the main voltage has been displayed. So the next thing I need to do is use my laptop to connect to the PEL via Wi-Fi. So to connect to the PEL via Wi-Fi, I simply need to log on to the PEL's Wi-Fi access point. So I need to go to my Wi-Fi settings, open up my Wi-Fi connection in the same way as we would if we were making any Wi-Fi connection, and scroll until we see the PEL51, and the SSID there has also got the PEL serial number so we know which one we're connecting to. So I click on that and click connect, and we should now connect through to the PEL's Wi-Fi interface. This will establish a connection between the laptop and the PEL, and then I can use the free PEL Transfer software to set up and download the data. So now we've made the Wi-Fi connection. There is a data connection now between the laptop and the PEL51. So now I open the PEL Transfer software. Now PEL Transfer software is a free download from our website. So we need to download that and install that first. So I've opened the PEL Transfer software. So what I need to do now is go to Instrument, and I need to add an instrument. Obviously I choose PEL51 and next. It's asked me how it's connected, so in this case it's a Wi-Fi access point. So next again, and it's now establishing the connection. So we have a direct connection established with the instrument, so I'll just click finish. So we can see now I've connected to the PEL, and we can tell that because there's a little green tick next to the PEL icon, and we can see the PEL and the serial number on there. We can also see some data about the PEL, like the time it's set to, battery temperature, and all sorts of information on there for the configuration. So the first thing we're going to do is actually go through the configuration and setup. So that is the first tab on here, the little screwdriver and spanner. So we've popped up into the configuration screen, and we're just going to go tab by tab by tab through this at the start. So we can name the PEL, but it's already named as its serial number. We can set the location where the PEL is actually used, and we can set the auto power off ride through time. Now I would generally set this to the lowest time possible, in this case 3 minutes, and what that means is that the PEL will actually switch itself off automatically after 3 minutes if the power fails. That gives us loads of time for it to actually store the data and shut itself down properly, but it doesn't try and run for too long and flatten the battery. Next, we can set the aggregated maximum values. We generally set this to when recording only. And then we've got various options for locking the controls, disconnecting the power supply inputs if the battery reaches a low level, and also setting a password for connection to the device. So I won't set any of those at the moment, but what we do need to do is set the clock. So I'm going to actually click on that to set the clock and make sure that the time is synchronized with my PC. So we can see that the time is now out by 0 seconds, which is good, because what we want to do is actually make sure that the time is accurate. If you're doing a logging session, you really need to make sure that the date and time are accurate so you're getting accurate information. Now, if we wanted to format the SD card, in this case, we could just click Format SD card, but my SD card is new, so in this case, I don't need to carry out that step. Now, if we move to the second tab, this is the Communications tab, and on here, I can change things like the SSID, the device, and the authentication if we wanted to actually create a password to log on to the device, but I'm happy to leave mine as it is. We can also set up connection to a router if we wanted to connect it directly to a local router rather than doing direct point-to-point connection. And we can also set up connection to the IRD server, which is the relay server for remote access. Now, The next tab is measurement. Now in here we've got just one option. It's set up to single phase 2 wire, which is pretty straightforward. Single phase logger, 2 wire connection, single phase 2 wire. Now we can also set up the frequency, so we can have auto 50 Hertz or 60 Hertz. So since we're in the UK, we'll go for 50 Hertz. Now the current sensors, I have an MA194 current sensor connected, which is the one that comes with the PEL51. And it asks me on here, do I want to do 300 amps range or 3000 amps range? Well, for most of the logging that we're going to be carrying out on single phase type installations or equipment, we're going to use the 300 amp setting. Now we do have an option if we wanted to, particularly if you've got longer CTs, to actually wrap them round the conductor multiple times to improve the coupling. Now, if we're going to do that, we need to tell the software and tell the PEL how many times we've wrapped the CT around the cable so that it knows to multiply or divide the data up correctly depending on our settings. So in this case, I'm just going to use one wrap, which is perfectly fine. So I've got it 300 amps, one wrap. Now the recording settings, I can now schedule a recording. So I can set the name for the recording. I can set it to record now, so it will start recording straight away, or I can set a scheduled recording. So if I click for a scheduled recording, I can either set the start and end, date and time, or I can tell it to record for a set period of time, for example, a week. So if I set it to record for a week, it automatically puts the start and end times in there for me. Now I can choose the aggregation period. So the aggregation period is how often the samples are aggregated. So a typical aggregation period for this would be, say, 10 minutes. So I can set for 10 minutes. And it also asks me, do I want to record 1 second trend data for current voltage, energy, power and power factor? So if I want the data, not just the aggregated data for every 10-minute period, but actually want data down to 1 second, I can tick that as well. Obviously, when I tick that, it will use up more memory. But as we can see from the bottom here, with an empty SD card, we're actually not using up much memory at all to log for 1 week. So there's loads of room for us to actually carry out that. The final tab on here for us to look at is the meters. And it's just asking us, do we want to actually reset the meters within the device? So the device has actually got a total energy meter, which will continue logging over a period of time. So if you were looking at comparing to your energy meter, you might want to keep that running. For us, we will reset that now just to make sure that it's reset. So if I press OK, all of those settings will then be transferred onto the PEL51. Now to check the recording is set up correctly on the PEL51, I can go to the final tab, which is the recording status, and it's saying to me there that the recording is actually pending, and you can see that it's counting down to when it's going to start. And we're actually carrying out a survey. It's telling us that it's going to run for 7 days, or 6 days, 23 hours and 59 minutes. And it tells us that we've got 1 second trends and also that we've got a 10-minute aggregation period. And we can now see that that session has started and it's recorded as being active. Thank you for watching this video. If you'd like more information or you'd like to arrange a product demonstration, please get in touch. We'd be more than happy to help. See you again next time.